Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get too far into the video, if you would mind hitting the like button, that really helps to get my channel promoted, and I appreciate that immensely. I also love it when people leave comments, so if you have a question or a suggestion for a video, or you just want to tell me how you do things, or constructive criticism is great too. So I'd love it if you left a comment. So it's getting to be that time of year again, and so I thought, I know I normally do the multi-project videos on Thursday, but I wanted to get a holiday one off early so you had time to try these projects. So I'm doing this on a Tuesday and getting it out of the way early in the month. So hopefully it'll provide some interesting ideas for you. I'm going to make 5 different projects here, at least if I can get them all done today. And I'm going to make a pair of little like ornament earrings and a stocking pendant. I'm going to make a gingerbread man pendant. I'm going to make a snowflake kind of ring, and then finally I'm going to make a bow pendant. So we'll give those a try and see how they come out. Before we get started, I wanted to thank some groups of people. My patrons over on Patreon are my core group of supporters, and I think they're the best group of people that I know. And I want them to know how much I appreciate the community that they've built over there, as well as just the kindness and the financial help that they provide for me. So you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for all of your support. My YouTube subscribers are also a group of people that I really appreciate. We just passed 15,700, I think. I lose track sometimes, but either way, that's an amazing number. I didn't ever think we'd get to that point, and thank you for that. I do really appreciate the nice comments that you leave. It's nice to know when you're helping somebody, and from some of the comments I'm getting, some people are getting some good quality out of these things, so thank you for that. Makes it feel worthwhile. I do also appreciate the kind contributions like the Buy Me a Coffee and the Super Thanks. Those things really help with my supplies, which have gotten a little bit expensive of late. So, all right, well, let's dive into these projects. So this is one of my design idea books that are available on my merch store. The newer ones, I've started to put some information on the back that's useful. This one's got fractions of an inch to decimals to millimeter conversion chart, which I find really useful since I'm trying to use the metric system a lot more. They also have a nice grid pattern in the background here, which I don't know if you're like me, but I'm not very good at drawing straight lines, and it helps me to keep things kind of organized and more symmetrical and stuff. So it also keeps a nice record of my projects if I want to go back and recreate something. So it's kind of nice. Alright, so we're going to do 5 projects here, at least I'm going to try. The first one is going to be these little ornament earrings. I'm going to do something pretty simple here, since I'm doing multiple projects, nothing super complicated. It's going to have just a silver ball, and then I'm going to mount kind of a finial on the bottom, and we'll have to make that finial out of some 14 gauge wire and some flattened 18 gauge round. So 14 gauge is 1.6 millimeters and 18 gauge is 1.02 millimeters. So that'll be what we do this one out of. The ear wires for earrings I always make out of 20 gauge wire, which I think is 0.41 or something. I don't remember. 0.66 I think is what it is. But second one, stocking, and I think I might do a little mixed metal here. I'm going to do copper for the parts here, and I think I'm going to texture this inside. I have picked out kind of a cool texture that one of my friends in Hawaii sent me. Paula, thank you for that. And we'll see how that comes out. This is made out of, she uses a laser to cut these out of some kind of strong tagboard stuff. Third, and I may not do, I may do these in a different order. I'm not sure yet, or maybe not. I'm going to do a gingerbread man. Hopefully he doesn't look as menacing as this one does, although most of the gingerbread men pictures I looked at online look kind of menacing to me, so maybe it's just a thing that I feel. But 18 gauge sheet for this. I'm going to use low dome half round, some number 2 I think it is for the wide stuff, and number 4 for the legs and arms. So I'm not going to make it too complex. I don't know what I'm going to make his bow tie out of, probably just some little scrap sheet and a ball or something. But I'm going to put a couple of stones for his buttons. And I picked out, let's see, it's a green lead crystal for that one. The other one I'm going to do is a little garnet. I didn't have anything in the right size that was green other than the lead crystal stuff, but it's nice and sparkly. So they're about 5 millimeters, I believe. So they're not exactly the same, they're pretty close. So that'll be his buttons, and I already pre-made some bezels for that. I also pre-made the bails for the 3 pennants that I'm doing. If you're interested in seeing how to do that kind of a bail, I have a video about it right there. Check that out. After that, or I don't know, like I said, I might do them in a different order. I'm going to do a ring that's just got a snowflake on top like this. It's going to be a real stylized, simplified snowflake like that. I think I'm going to use 8 gauge half round for the band, which I think is 3.25 millimeters. The top here, I think I'm going to use 14 gauge round and then 18 gauge round for the little projections there. Let's see, and finally I'm going to try and do a ribbon. I've never really tried to do a ribbon, so it'll be an interesting try. I'm going to use some 22 gauge sheet. I did a little test try on making one side of it like this to see how it would go. And I want it to where you can kind of see that bottom part like that, so it looks real 3D. And I might flatten this a little bit more too, but that's kind of what I'm going to do. And then we'll do some little pendulous things coming down there. I might use 14 gauge round or square or something there to or flatten it out, or I haven't decided yet. So let's start with these little ornament earrings. And I think I'm going to use my old charcoal block here to make a relatively roundish ball. If you do a regular ball just by melting some silver and it balls up, it has a tendency to have a real flat bottom, especially on a charcoal pad like this. On other things, sometimes it has a concave bottom, which is even worse. But a lot of times you want a flat bottom. This time I want it to be relatively round looking so that I get kind of an ornament shape. So I'm just going to melt some scrap into this little divot that I carved out of here with a big round ball burr, and we'll see how it comes out. So find some scrap here. We'll melt some in there, and then we'll see how big it is. And if we need to, we'll add a little more. If you've never been to my channel before, I use hard silver sheet solder for my solder. I use a liquid flux that I dribble on mostly with a dropper bottle. My torch is a Silversmith model, which is their acetylene air torch, and I really like it. It's a good torch. And I use a #1 tip most of the time. So. I think I can get a little bit bigger ball than that, so let's throw some more in there. I never pick them up until they turn black. If they're red and you pick them up with the tweezers, oftentimes you'll squish them a little bit. That looks about the size that I want it to be, and I want to make, like I said, a little finial that sticks off of it, and I want to use 14 gauge round for the middle part of it, and then wrap a couple of little pieces of 18 gauge round that I flattened a little bit with my rolling mill. What I've done, I actually pulled a piece of 14 gauge through my draw plate one pull, so it's slightly smaller than 14, because I wanted these to be snug when I make these rings that go around the finial part. And so if I wrap it around a slightly smaller than a 14 gauge, it'll be pretty tight when I pull it off of there. So, and that's what I did, was just wrap this around. I'll do a couple more wraps here. So let me grab chain nose pliers here. These ones. Try and get those kind of lined up. And then let me file the flat bottom on this piece of 14 gauge. That looks pretty good. So let's, I don't need this to be quite this tall either. Let's see if we can't get that to solder on nicely. Got some little pieces of hard sheet solder here. I'm probably going to use a little bit of easy on this one. I didn't ever used to use it, but it is handy now and again. Let's put a little bit of solder on here. This is called pick soldering. If you've never seen pick soldering, it's a really useful technique. It allows you to put solder right where you want it. So I want to have an additional wrap around this thing too, other than just the base. And so let's make another one here. If you look at my picture here, I've got the base has got a little knob there, and then just a little bit down it's like that, and then I'll file it to a point probably. So if we get another tight one slid on there and just pick it on, hopefully that'll be good. I did a little experimentation on this particular one yesterday because I was trying to figure out what the best way to do these finials was. And if you don't have these little loops really tight around there, they'll tip on you a little bit, so you won't have a straight loop going all the way around. So really I think what I need to do now is I'm gonna file that flat and then maybe even a little bit concave using my rotary tool, and then I'm going to pre-melt a little bit of solder on there, probably well, let's see, I might flip it over and use the other side on the bottom. Yeah, put this side down. So I'm probably going to pre-melt some easy solder on here, and then we'll solder this down. I have some easy paste solder right here that I can just put on there, and then we'll just plop that on there, but I'm going to go make that a little bit concave. So I'll be right back. I got these from Pepe Tools, who I am an affiliate of, so there's a link in my description to get to Pepe Tools if you're interested. They have lots of great tools. Now we need to put a loop on the top of that. In order to not have anything come apart, I'm going to use a softer surface called a magnesia block. I'm just going to punch this thing right down in there. And I'm going to make a little loop out of 18 gauge round. I'll be snipping these off shorter, and then I'll probably file those to a point so it looks like it kind of tapers down, and then I'll hang them off of some 20 gauge ear wires and we'll get them polished up. So I'll let that pickle for a while, and I'll be back for the next one. So I did a little prepping here. I needed a piece of silver about the same size as that, so I found a spot on my piece of 18 gauge and I cut a piece off that I think will work. I'm going to want to put it up against this texture sheet that was printed out by my friend, and then sandwich it between two sacrificial pieces of brass. And then I'm going to tape it all together. And then we'll run that sandwich through the rolling mill. Alright, so let's go meet over at the rolling mill. So this is my Pepe Tools 130 millimeter combo rolling mill that they gave me. It's a beautiful piece of machinery, and if you're interested, you check it out at Pepe Tools. There's a link in my description down below. So I tightened it down in there, and we're going to feed it through there. This is the fun part when you get to unwrap it. See if your texture came out how you hoped. And I think that came out pretty cool. That'll be fun for stocking, I think. All right, let's go back over there. Pro tip, in advance of running it through your rolling mill, think about which way the stocking is supposed to face. So apparently I'm not a pro, because we're going to be making a left or a right facing, it was supposed to be left facing, now it's going to be right facing stocking. So we'll just tip it this way instead. So I cut out a little piece of cardboard like this. Just kind of trace it out. And then I'll use my saw to cut it out. Sometimes you got to go with the flow. So I can see those lines a little bit better now to follow what I'm sawing. So let's go saw. I cut the top off just with the shears because it's just a straight line. So get this started in here. That looks like a stocking. Alright, I'll clean that up with the Dremel to just kind of smooth out the edges a little bit. Get pretty close on the lines. Okay, I've done a few things. I cut some little pieces after I cleaned this up a little bit. I cut some little pieces of copper to become the little parts that are either patches or folded over at the top. That should make them stand out. But if you notice on the top one, it's got some markings on it. So I'm going to go ahead. Oh, here's the other one, by the way. So I'm going to go ahead and texture this, but I'm going to do it using a screw drill bit. So I just need kind of little lines. Yeah. I suspect my finger's in your way right now, but sorry about that. I think I like that. We also need to put a little ring up here at the end, and I think let's put that on first. I'm gonna hook it right about there. These two things fluxed. Since I'm going to lay this over the top of this right here, I think I want to make sure that that doesn't stick up at all there, so I'm going to file that kind of flat. Okay, throw that one in the pickle for a while. Alright, I'll be back. Okay, so I did a creepy face. And I made his body, like I said, out of this stuff here, and I sawed it off like that. And then I used my Dremel to kind of round this in, and then I just filed it so it's like that. I noticed that my stones that I picked are much bigger than the buttons that I had on here, so I might have to get rid of the bow tie because I don't think I have space for it. So I'm going to just do buttons, I guess. And then I cut some of the number 4 low dome half round at about that angle and rounded the ends. Got 2 legs. I made these a little bit longer than I had drawn. And then I used some more of that low dome half round to kind of make this shape. Those will be soldered on there like that. Then we'll put a ring on the top. But I think I'm going to solder his body all together, and then we'll add these we're probably going to have to curve these a little bit on the bottom to make them sit on there nicely. And I'll position those as neatly as I can. Solder them down, file them a little bit shorter, and then we're going to drill a hole in the center of each so the point of the faceted stone will sit in that little hole. But yeah, let's solder this together. We'll start here, solder that on. While we're here, let's go ahead and add a little loop to the top of his head. I think for this one I'll use 16 gauge. Throw a little extra on there just to make sure we got a good solid connection. Okay. I'm going to let him pickle for a minute while I take a little back break. Yeah, I don't think I can get a bow tie on there, unfortunately. I just don't have any smaller stones right now that suit my requirements for this. I wanted green and red for the holiday season. So I'll get this cleaned up and stuff, and we'll round the bottoms of those and we'll solder them down. Then we'll drill a hole, and then we'll pickle him after we put the veil on. Probably only need a couple in each one of these. Okay, I'm going to let him pickle for a while, and then we'll drill those holes. Meanwhile, we can start on the next project, which is going to be a snowflake rig. Okay, I did a little thinking about how to do this kind of snowflake looking thing, and what I did was I took a piece of 14 gauge round, straightened it out, and let's see how long that was. That was about 18 millimeters or so. And then I cut some a little bit longer than half as long for these other ones, and I have a few other ones. You'll notice a couple of things I want you to notice here when I'm soldering these together. I filed them at an angle, kind of estimating a 60-degree angle there. And I'm going to solder these two first, but the other thing is I curved them slightly so that when I did file them, they wouldn't roll around on the pad and have trouble getting those angles lined up against the other wire. So that's just a little trick you can do to keep things from rolling around too much. We'll solder these first two on, and then I'll file these to match that, and we'll see if we can get those on there too. And then we'll cut them off to the right length. if you're lucky enough to have one of those nice higher end miter vise jigs, they do 60s and 30s as well. Mine just does 45s and 90s, unfortunately. However, that's still useful, but I should have held out and got the better one probably. Now for these ones, I think I need to do kind of, since I'm going right into the crook of those ones, I need to file them to where they're kind of like that shape. So let's do the ends just a little bit like that. Okay, let's solder those together. Even if I'm a little bit off on the angle, I can just bend them slightly to get them to look nice. I haven't seen this stuff before. This is kind of handy. See, I've marked the... I got pretty close on that, so I think that's good enough. We can also kind of use this as a guide to where to cut it off if we get it centered in there. This one's just inside of that ring there, so okay, so my thought about how to do these little hooks on the end. So I cut myself a piece of 18 gauge round. And I think I make little circles, not huge circles, but maybe like this size on my bail making pliers. Let's try that. My thought was just put these like that, solder them on, and then cut them off. I think that'll probably work. Let's see how it works with more than one on there. That's not too bad. Well, I'm going to cut a few more little pieces of solder and let's solder it together, see how it looks. So I'm just going to solder it to an 8 gauge band that I made, and I think the best way to do that might be to push it into the magnesia block. Find a kind of a flattish spot. And then where I soldered the band together, I'm going to file a flat spot. That's pretty close. It seems to be on there now. that. Alright, I'm going to clean that up with the Dremel and throw it in the pickle, and we'll get on to the fifth one. So, for the last one, basically, it's going to be a ribbon, and what I've done is I've taken a piece of 22 gauge sheet and I cut it about, I think it was 8 millimeters wide, and then I tapered it to the center. So kind of like how I make a bail, if you go to that bail video I was talking about, where this is the widest part, I tapered it to either end like that, and then bent it around together. And so I also offset them slightly so that you could see a little bit of the inside, like that. And then I took a piece of 14 gauge round wire and I wrapped it around, I think it was on this one here, of my bail making pliers. And then I soldered the rings together like that because it was a little spring, and then snipped off half of it. And so that's going to go between those two. And then I cut a little 16 gauge round ring that's going to go up here. And then I got these two pieces of 22 gauge that I cut. They're probably not going to match this exactly, but they're going to go kind of like that, and then I'll add a bail to it. So I think to start with I'm going to solder these two together here, and then I may solder those to these two rings and this jump ring at the top, and then we'll add those other two pieces at the end, I think. So you could just lay a piece of solder across there if you wanted to. Do it kind of like that. Okay. I'll let that one pickle too. I'll get to work polishing those earlier ones. I'll be back with some finished results in a while. So I got everything kind of polished up and all the stones set and everything. Here's my little Christmas ornament earrings. Notice they're not perfectly symmetrical, but hey, you know. At least they'll be on either side of the head. But I like them anyway. Perhaps if I practiced a little more on that particular thing, I would get more symmetrical ones. Second thing, my backward stocking. Third thing, my little, what do you call it, gingerbread man. And my little snowflake ring. So, finally, a little ribbon pendant. So, So which one do you guys like the best? I know I've already picked out one I like the best, so tell me in the comments which one you think is the best one. And then after a few people have answered, I'll put in the comments which one I like the best. So I'll take some good pictures and put them at the end. All right, well, that was the 5 holiday projects. I hope you enjoyed those. Make sure to hit the like button if you did, and take a moment and visit my main channel page if you're new here. I have over 400 videos and a huge catalog of material to pull ideas from, as well as some technique videos and things like that. So I think there's a lot of valuable content here, especially if you're new to this and are wanting to learn some of the tricks. So check that out, watch a few videos, and make sure to subscribe to my channel. And ring the bell too if you want to get notifications of my videos, which come out every few days. I do 3 videos per week, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday, and typically one on Saturday. So also, before you leave, hit the video description down below. There's some important links there. You can get my ebook through a link in the description if you're interested in a guide to 2023's tutorials. There's a link to my merch store if you want to get yourself one of those nice design idea books. Those are a great way to keep your ideas organized. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention, there's some new merch in the merch store. We've come up with some aprons with some designs on them, so check those out and get yourself a nice apron. And finally, there's a link to my Patreon, which is such a great community, and I think you might find it a good place to learn new things from other people as well. So check those out. Take care. Happy silversmithing.